Hello and welcome to the 2021 Godolphin Flying Start USA Conference. My name is Kate Hardy and I am the USA Coordinator for the program. The theme for this year's conference is reimagining the graded stakes schedule for 3-year-olds, and we have tasked the trainees with coming up with proposals to support that idea. Specifically, we've asked Sam, Devin, and Aaron to examine the other group's proposals and then to debate the merits of those proposals in this 15-minute roundtable discussion. Thank you and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Devin Doherty. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm an avid reader of the TDN. And this past February, I wrote an article in the TDN on ideas for innovation and change in the American workforce.
And hi, my name is Erin McLaughlin. I am from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Something that I'm really looking forward to in the next couple of weeks on the program are our externships, and I will be at Spendthrift.
Hi, my name is Samantha Vucinich. I'm from Brick, New Jersey, and I am one of the co-founders of Nexus Racing Club.
And with that, guys, I guess we'll kick off and start talking about our fellow trainees' ideas. You know, they had the 3 groups. They had the fillies, they had the turf division, and they had the colt division. So I'll go first, because ladies first. Because I'll do the fillies, and David, Dunica, and Selene, they came up with this idea of the Keeneland Royal TR Stakes. Brand new grade 1, $2 million race on Queen Elizabeth Day that'll go a mile and an eighth. Hoping that these 3-year-old fillies will make it to the distaff in November. And they're only going to have a 14 stall starting gate.
So how would 3-year-old fillies get a spot in the starting gate for this new race?
So they have something similar to the Kentucky Derby, in that they have the road to royalty. And they have 24 races, which will have various point systems. They have 5 graded stakes that are win and your ins. It should be really interesting in how similar it is to kind of based off the road to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and with this new race, it would be mid-October. How do you think that would clash on the American calendar or set up for the Breeders' Cup, which is early in November?
Oh, I don't think trainers are going to like that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a tight squeeze if we stick to their timeline right now. I think, they have the cotillion on their calendar as a win and you're in. It's already a grade 1. It's already $1 million purse. We just need to extend it about half furlong. And, I think that could work really well instead of creating this brand new race.
Yeah, and definitely the cotillion run at Pennsylvania at Parks would be great for their program. Mm-hmm. And it already attracts top quality fillies with the likes of Monomoy Girl, Midnight Bisou, Street Band. They've all run in the race and the list goes on.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about charging a new nomination fee to breeders, really kind of starting that off. So I think that would be an interesting idea just to make this existing race that already has had so much success,
Yeah, it would be a good final prep for the Breeders' Cup distaff if they were in the cotillion.
Mm-hmm. And then, they have this other idea of a fantasy stable, and it would be kind of involving the horses that are on the road to royalty.
Kind of like the NFL Fantasy League.
Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't be similar to the Equibase virtual stable in that you just get notifications and that sort of thing. And you would have a $10 buy-in, and each horse at first would be valued at $5. I think that's a really good value to get involved and to expand the fan base. It's something that I think, racing really needs to do if it wants to grow.
Yeah, and I agree. You could almost even start this with the Kentucky Derby as well, because so many people watch the Derby, and just like the NFL Fantasy League, you might not know much about football, but you still want to somehow get involved. It just kind of creates a fun piece.
Yeah, and it could create new fans of the sport as well.
Yeah, and that's something that, I think racing is always trying to do. But talking, about the Derby, what did the Colt group have to say?
Yeah, so Tommy, George, and Maureen looked at the 3-year-old dirt calendar, and they looked at the Colts division, and with last year, with the Triple Crown was changed, the Belmont was run in the first leg, the Derby was run in September, so they looked at the calendar as a whole to see if there's any areas for improvement, and they came up with 3 ideas. The first one, which I really liked, was about the sprint races for 3-year-old colts on the dirt. They noticed that there wasn't many 3-year-old restricted sprints on the grade stakes, and their idea was to create a series with a $500,000 incentive, and it would be starting out at Oaklawn with the Bachelor Stakes in March, and then it would move towards Gulfstream and the Hutchinson Stakes in April, and the last race would be the Chick Lang Stakes of grade 3 at Pimlico in May.
That's a lot of moving around.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be a big ask to ask for a new incentive to travel to Arkansas, Florida, and Maryland for this new incentive. And especially the fact that Oakland is owned by the Sella family and Gulfstream and Pimlico are owned by First Racing, it may be a bit difficult to get them to work together for this incentive bonus.
You almost think that you can have like a New York triple for these sprint races with the Woody Stevens, the Amsterdam, the Alan Jerkins, because those are such valuable races, especially even for a horse's stallion's career.
Yeah, though I think that sequence would work better in the calendar, and it would be a bit later in the year as well. And I think that the Woody Stevens run at Belmont and both the Amsterdam and the Alan Jurgens run at Saratoga, it would all be NYRA track, so it'd be easier for the incentive, as well as many horses who run in those races, especially the Amsterdam, go on to run in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So even going as far to make that a win you're in for the Breeders' Cup, along with the incentive, could really drive to get horses into it. And also, with like a West Coast incentive, maybe to pay for shipping bonuses, so you can get more of a more diverse field.
That'd be an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, it's a good twist and possibly a good addition to what they have.
Yeah, and then they also had two other ideas. The other one was about the Road to the Kentucky Derby. They wanted to cut the Road to the Kentucky Derby in half from 4 months to 2 months.
That'd be tough on the sponsors, I'd say.
Yeah, there are many sponsors of the Kentucky Derby, from Ford, Longines, Woodford Reserve, and they benefit from this Road to the Kentucky Derby, the excitement and the revenue generated around it.
Yeah, and I think fans do as well. You love the anticipation of waiting for the Kentucky Derby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also they aim to modify the Road to Kentucky Derby, making Grade 1s an automatic entry in the Kentucky Derby starting gate, and points from placings in Grade 1 and Grade 2s.
I think that would kind of like diminish certain races. Like, for example, the Fairgrounds Louisiana Derby, that's a Grade 2, but think about how well represented the Fairgrounds circuit was in the Kentucky Derby this year. And even in the Oaks, they've had several Oaks winners come out of the Fairgrounds recently as well.
Yeah, definitely. And their final idea was they noticed that after the Belmont, horses who really excel in that 1.5 mile distance, there wasn't a clear-cut path for them to go to for that 1.5 mile type races. So they thought about making 2 additional races in Saratoga, one in July and one on Whitney weekend, going 1.5 miles for these Belmont type horses.
I don't think that'll work well with the Haskell and the Jim Dandy.
Yeah, as you pointed out, the Haskell is July 17th this year, and the Jim Dandy's July 31st. They're both 3-year-old restricted, going 9 furlongs. So I think maybe it might be a better idea to look at something like a Haskell Travers sweep and an incentive in that sense. And already Monmouth and NYRA have had conversations about doing incentives and deals together. So it could be a feasible option.
And I'd love to see, the horses run longer and some sort of incentive towards the end of the year for them.
Yeah, and get more starts into horses, which is slowly on the decline in America.
Yeah.
So now going into my group, Angus, Brigitte, and Tom worked on the 3-year-old division on the turf. So they had 3 different ideas, and the first was kind of a bonus scheme. And to me, it might be a little far-fetched. It's very different. And it's basically that, from my understanding, that if a filly wins a Grade 1 on the turf, whether it be in restricted or open company, she would win a voucher. And that voucher would be to a free breeding season to any nominated stallion. And it kind of gets you thinking, do you value something that's free? And I don't know, what do you guys think?
For me, it's a bit gimmicky. When I go to the mall and get a free sample of food, it doesn't mean I'm going to go back and buy the food. I'll probably try and get as many free samples as I can.
Yeah.
So I think that will be kind of my take on that type of incentive.
Yeah, I think I probably would take it for granted. And especially with the COVID pandemic, it might not be the best time for the economy to implement something like that.
Yeah, exactly, because that is income for a stallion farm, those breedings. But on the flip side, you have to think, wouldn't any stallion farm want a Grade 1 winning filly on their book of mares for a certain stallion? So it's a very interesting idea, very different. We'll see what people think of that idea. And the second idea is something that I really think is great, and it's the way that American racing is going towards, and that's incentivizing turf sprints. So their general plan is to slowly see the upgrade of the quick call at Saratoga, which has been upgraded in years past. And so that race is won at Saratoga, and a lot of good horses have been running in it.
And the U.S. has done more for turf sprint racing recently.
Yeah, exactly. So Keeneland has added more turf sprints that are now listed stakes, but you'd assume that those will be graded stakes shortly. Saratoga added the Mahoney Stakes in August, and as you guys know, the Breeders' Cup has the juvenile turf sprint.
And how do you think that would affect breeders? I know there's a lot of turf stallions in America who are not overly commercial at the moment.
You'd have to think that this would open up more options for breeders, especially when you're selling horses as well. You have a new path to go down. Rather than having a turf miler, you can think, wait a minute, I can now have a sprinter on the turf as well. And I think it will just open more options and hopefully help turf stallions in the breeding market. So their third idea was focusing on distance races on turf. And to be honest, I don't love that idea. I think we all know that America so far and recently has really excelled with milers, and hopefully will go down the route of excelling with turf sprinters as well. So what do you guys think about going a mile and a half on the turf?
Certainly interesting.
Yeah, I think that, if you look at the global calendar and you look at European races, they don't shy away from mile and a half races. But I think Americans, it's probably best to stick to the mile races.
Yeah, exactly. I think mile and now going 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs on the turf as well. And what the group failed to mention was the fans and the bettors, which are a huge stakeholder in our industry. And if we really look at the stats, and specifically Saratoga, over the years, they've been adding more turf races to the meet. And on average in 2019, the field size was larger on turf races compared to dirt racing. So a better product and bigger fields means more bets coming in, more handle, more revenue for the track. And so you just want to get those fans involved as much as possible. So you have to think about how turf racing will translate back into the revenue of the game as well.
Yeah, that's a great point about trying to make sure that we have this quality product to give to the public if we want to entice these fans and make our base bigger.
Yeah, exactly. We really have to think about all the ways we can grow the sport.
Yeah, and it also directly affects the purses of each track as well, having more revenue from betting.
Yeah, I think we thought of some really good ideas based off of what the other trainees have thought of.
Yeah, just to wrap up the conversation, when we talked about the 3-year-old fillies division, I think it's a really great idea about making a fantasy league for fan engagement for the sport.
Yeah, and I think they were onto something with their Keeneland race. I just think that the cotillion will work a lot better in their schedule if their goal is the distaff at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And then with the 3-year-old colts division on the dirt, in the sprint racing, making more graded sprint stakes is a great idea, and especially including incentives for West Coast horses would be a great idea. But it probably would be more favorable to do with the NYRA races, which would be the Woody Stevens, the Amsterdam, and the Alan Jurgens. And then with the turf racing, it was great to, the market is moving to turf sprints. So that looks like the way to go.
And I think just with all the racetracks adding these races, you can kind of see that the horsemen will support that direction as well.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in, and a thank you to TDN for hosting us. We look forward to all your feedback and any questions you may have.